When you think about your daughter's future career, do you ever wonder how much is shaped by your career story? It's probably more than you realize. The way you talk about work, the choices you've made, whether you've loved your job or every single week you count the days till Friday, she's been watching. My guest, Ilana Levitt, is a licensed counselor, career coach, and author. She's been studying this dynamic for years. She's going to share why daughters either follow our example or intentionally do the opposite, how to give them the space to dream their own dreams, and the subtle ways we can either build their career confidence or chip away at it without meaning to. If you've ever caught yourself thinking, she's nothing like me, or she's exactly like me, this one's going to connect some dots. Let's go ahead and welcome Ilana to the show. Ilana, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here.
I am thrilled to talk about this topic about moms and daughters. And it's not really the typical moms and daughters conversation. It's moms and daughters and careers and what we need to be thinking of. I love it because I have a 24-year-old daughter, and I know you're going to give me lots of great information to help me. I'm mom of boys also. I have a sister, I have a stepdaughter, I have a mother. So as I was preparing, I was thinking about all the things. And so you have a great bio. You're doing a lot of things: organizational psychology, clinical psychologist, wonderful author, career coach, which is how we know each other.
Yep.
And so this idea of mothers and daughters, I'm sure you encounter it a lot in your clinical counseling practice. But then there's a career impact that goes into the other piece. And then there was enough of it that you decided to write a book. So tell me about those connections, the intersection, and why it deserved a book.
Absolutely. Well, when I do a lot of public speaking, and when I start my talks, I talk about how I my mother was a psychoanalyst, and growing up, I saw what she did, and I knew I liked it sort of, but I didn't want to be just like her. So I made all these decisions to do something different. I studied counseling psychology instead of clinical psychology or social work, and I got into career work. And then I needed an office in New York City, and I asked her if I could use her office, and she said yes. She didn't use it on Tuesdays. So I literally was sitting in her chair waiting for my first client. I said, "Oh my God, how did this happen? I did all these things to be different, and I'm literally sitting in the woman's chair." And it blew me away. And then a few years later, we talked about how all these father-son partnerships, and she and I decided to run mother-daughter relationship workshops. And we did that for 12 years until sadly she
Oh,
died of ovarian cancer. But it
oh.
was the most magical work. We saw hundreds and thousands of women under for over 12 years in these workshops where we were exploring the relationship. Anyway, those were great. And then years after my mother died, I would ask women, who their role models are, mentors. I would ask men too, and they would always have answers. Men have had role models throughout the years. And then I would ask women, and a lot of them would look at me like, "What do you mean?" And I realized there were patterns when we look at the mother-daughter relationship in where women have career struggles, career successes. There was a connection. And I thought, oh, this topic has not been explored. I'm going to take these two things that I'm expert in and I'm going to marry them, and that has not been explored. So that was great, and that's how the book was born.
I love the story. So take me back. I like this story about you and your mom. So you were dancing around the edges, doing similar work to what she was doing, but trying to be different enough. Why was
I actually was very different because she was European born and a psychoanalyst and had a degree in group therapy and group process. And I
Mhm.
was always much more, I'm very different. I'm practical, I make things happen. I have a very different approach, but it was a really beautiful complement to each other.
So I'm curious, like when your younger mindset, younger Alana, and you're thinking ahead, and you're thinking like, I'm going to be different. That sounded like a very purposeful decision, or was it not?
No, it was sort of like a slow realization. Like
Okay.
I knew I wasn't like her. She was much more introverted and I think intellectual. So even when we're successful, we're still measuring ourselves,
Yeah.
comparing, right? I knew I was different, but it was like through the years of the work that I really came in to appreciate the differences and not judge them.
Okay. And you felt, how did she respond to you? Like, were you feeling her support?
Oh, yeah, she was so excited. She loved every time we did a workshop and we would talk about it before and talk about it after. We actually ran the New York City Marathon together when she turned 60 and I went through a breakup. We did that. So we were, I didn't want, my biggest career mistake, Lisa, is that
Yeah.
the Gayle King show called while we were doing this work. And I said, I don't want my whole career to be about my mother. I had no idea who Gayle King was.
Oh my gosh.
And I said no.
Oh my word.
So I still think about that. Like that was my resistance to having my whole career be about this mother-daughter. So
Mm.
even during it, it was great, but I still was always doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I messed that up.
Well, you know what? As long as there's a lesson in
It's
it,
all great. Oh, yes,
maybe
it's
the
all
lesson
great.
is we embrace saying yes more often.
Totally.
So as I know you wrote the book, and the book you really have like five types of daughters in there,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And it ends with some advice to moms, but we're going to kind of reverse engineer from how you wrote the book and make it really about like we have so many listeners that are moms. Your advice to them, like what you've discovered in your practice, in your own life experience, that gives them advice. So there's this blueprint that's going on, whether we realize it or not, right?
Yes. Yes. So,
And talk more into that. Yeah.
okay. So, first, I just want to say a few things off the bat that every woman is a daughter. Now, I don't have daughters, I have sons, but I am a daughter. And I wrote this through the lens of being the daughter, of the
Hmm.
mother-daughter relationship, right? So you are a daughter and you're the mother of a daughter. And we're not just talking about one generation. We as mothers have to look at where we've come from. So
Yeah.
that's one thing I want to say. The other thing I want to say is that mothers, we always do the best with what we have. This is not about blaming mothers. This is not about judging mothers. Every woman is doing the best with what we have been given. So I just want to come out here and say this is a no judgment zone for all of you listeners. We know you're doing your best, and all we want is for our daughters and sons to be successful and happy. That this is the motivation, right? So I just
Right.
want to really put that out there.
I mean, I feel like in my work as a career coach, supporting these 15 to 25-year-olds, when I talk to the parents, they're like, I just want them to be happy. I want them to be launched. I don't necessarily want them living in my basement till they're 40,
Exactly.
but I want them launched, but launched thriving and happy.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so it's always well intentioned.
Exactly.
And I'm guessing you probably have, I mean, I know that we're well intentioned, but we make mistakes, right?
Of course, because we're human and we were
Yeah.
raised, we were all raised with our mother's own flaws, right? And so sometimes we're trying to compensate. So the mother-daughter relationship is like glue, okay?
Mhm.
It is a tighter relationship where, even before daughters are born, the mothers are thinking, are they going to be like me? What are they going to be like? I'm having this person who is like me, who is part of me. And even in separation, I mean, and you're dealing with kids at a point where there might not be separation because girls are emulating their mothers, right? So
Mhm.
not only are you dealing with the career piece, but we know there's a lot of separation in adolescence anyway.
Right.
So I think that mothers do want to try their best, but not all of women our age, our mothers didn't have a lot of the opportunities that we have. And we struggled with career and parenting. And many of us have been able to do it, not perfectly. I say women can have everything, we just can't have it all at once or
Yeah.
everything we want all at once, right? So our daughters are watching us so carefully. So I think this is the biggest piece of the blueprint is regardless what kind of relationship you have, our daughters are watching us. They're
Yeah.
watching us with in our relationships with friends, partnerships, food, career. They're watching. And so we have to look in ourselves and say, what are we showing?
Mhm.
And that's something that really surprises moms. So if you out there as a mom have been stuck in your career, or you gave up your career, or you come home every day and complain about work, or wherever you are, our daughters are hearing that, and you are their role models. So we have to
You
think
know
about
what this makes me think of? This is a universal experience of parents, all parents. When that little sweet face, I'll never forget my 5-year-old gets off the bus from kindergarten. Like it's in the first week of school. Never ridden the bus before. He gets off the bus, and later that evening, we're doing something, and he just says a sentence, and he has the word shit in the sentence. And of course, and he's my oldest. He's now 27, and my twins are there, and I'm like, where did that come from? You know, we assumed it was a bus. No, it was parents.
Yeah,
It
of
was
course.
us,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And
Exactly.
so, I mean, in
Exactly.
that moment, it's hard not to chuckle and it's
Right.
cute. But that starts at that very young age and then it continues. And so, to your point, if we're always complaining about work, if we're like our attitudes are getting transferred over to them, I guess, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And not only about that, but we think about, because I work in human resources, right? And we see a
Yeah.
lot of workplace dynamics. So also women's relationships to their partners, to men, to women, how we navigate authority, how we stand up for ourselves. Our daughters are watching that as well. So there's a confidence issue too. Not even so much about work, but just confidence in general. How do our
Mm.
mothers navigate the world, right? And so some daughters want to be just like mom, but then the opposite is daughters want to be different from mom. When I sometimes I'll do a talk and I'll say, okay, and I'll ask all of you women out there just to think about this. How many of you unconsciously find your own mother's words coming out of your mouth? All of us, right?
Yes.
Especially as parents.
Right.
These are words we don't consciously think about. So much of this is unconscious too, because we take in our parents, right? We literally are taking them inside. And the real trick is for daughters and for us, to recognize our own strengths and our weaknesses and separate ourselves enough from mom that we could see ourselves. And as mothers, we have to not hold on so tight to an image of who our daughters are that we allow them to be themselves. We see them for who they are. We recognize what's rebellion. We appreciate their strengths and weaknesses, even if they're different from ours.
Hmm.
And we don't apply judgment to that because they might be just like you, but they're not you, right? And there's in our society, people want mothers and daughters to be best friends. Oh, I'm best friends with my daughter. Well, that's not great, especially when people are in divorce and single. Then they start talking to their daughters about sex and relationships.
Right.
Daughters don't want to hear it. They want the mothers also. What daughters want for their mothers is the same thing, happiness and to be thriving and not to
Mm.
have all the attention on them.
Here's a question for you because this comes out of my own experience with my own mom. So you have me really thinking about
But
these dynamics. So my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and my dad was an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. I've had four
mhm,
businesses over my lifetime. And I remember vividly when it was on Mother's Day of all times. I was out with my mom and my kids to celebrate Mother's Day, took my mom out to lunch. And she told me a regret that she had as a mom was that she felt like she had not done a great job parenting me, that I chose to work instead of being a stay-at-home mom.
mhm,
And I mean, it cut deep because all the things came in. And of course, I still think about this. And I don't, that was a great choice for her.
mhm,
Right. And I even
mhm,
understand when I really think about like she was the oldest of three daughters. Her dad was World War II. He came back, was sick,
mm,
couldn't work. My grandma had
mm.
to go to work. So my mom had a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
So I think she saw a working mom as
Yeah.
creating undue responsibility for the kids. And then my parents made different values-based choices that were the right
Yes.
choice for them.
Yes. Yes.
But she didn't have a worldview where you could be a good mom and
That's right.
work.
That's right.
And so what I wonder is, so I was in the case of like, I didn't endeavor to do differently. I just wanted to be true to myself and what I
Yeah.
knew of
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But yet,
so,
there's still, even today, you think about it like, what message did she send to you that it was wrong, right?
right. It was
To be
terrible.
working, right? So as you're parenting or coming home tired and have to be with all your kids, there's that inner voice, that self-doubt, right?
Right.
And
Am
that,
I doing the right thing? Am I making the right
right,
choice?
exactly. Exactly. And for women, there's still in a society, the women who work and don't work, there is no right answer. Like to
There
your point, it's
isn't.
very individual. But this is one issue. I've had many clients whose parents were entrepreneurs, busy all the time. They're like, I'm never doing that. I was a latchkey kid. I'm going to be home for my kids. There's other women who are like, my mother never worked. and she always had to depend on the dad or the
Yeah.
spouse for money. I'm not going to be that. I always want to have my own money. And so the money messages also around this are very complex,
Yeah.
and that feeds into the dynamic in the relationship. But that's a really, so your example is one where you're really showing how deep the role modeling and the comments and all of it
Yeah.
comes. I said to my mom once, why didn't you? I said, this is great that I have a private practice, I do counseling, I could be a mom and work. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me this was a good career choice? Like when I was choosing, she said, Lonnie, she called me Lonnie, Lonnie, you saw me do it. I didn't have to tell you. Because her office was in the
Mm.
basement. I bought a house with a separate entrance. She's like, I didn't have to tell you. I was like, oh yeah. Right. So it is, she was aware of that. But my sister made very different choices. My brother made very different choices. But, I would call myself the copycat daughter, even though we're not the same. But I definitely had some role modeling. But I also do very different things in my career as well.
Right. Well, it makes me think of like my sister did choose to primarily be a stay-at-home mom. She had some instances where she did a little bit of part-time work when the her boys were older.
Mhm.
And I actually appreciated that we both just were true to what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
We're very, very close. She's one of my
Right.
closest friends in the world. And, I'm divorced from my three kids' dad, many, many, many years ago at this point, because I've been married to my husband for over a decade. But I see my daughter saying, like, I always want to work because I want to have a career and an income. And I
Right.
think that that's the product of divorce. And I would, I'm like, I support her in whatever choice she makes, right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
she's in corporate America,
Of course.
never would be a good fit for me.
Right.
I'm too entrepreneurial. So, but
Yeah.
it makes me think too, like my dad was an entrepreneur and I had people when I quit my job, I was a teacher for 8 years and then I quit my job and started what actually was my second business. The first one was like for a hot second. And a business that I had for 25 years, I just sold it a year ago. And people would say to me, like, what made you think that you could just quit your job and go start a business and that it could work? I'm like, I actually didn't even think about it because this goes back to the role modeling thing,
Exactly.
right? Because
Exactly.
I
You
saw
you
my
saw it.
dad
You
do it, and
saw
I
it.
did
Right.
see the ebbs and flows and that can come with it, even financially
Exactly.
at times. But I'm like, well, no, it's figure outable, and that's what you want to do.
Exactly.
You can do
But
it.
you got the confidence too from there. I mean, I want to
Yes,
say to the women listening that it doesn't have to be paid work. It's about being satisfied. And, I don't, again, I think if women are volunteering and they're engaged in the world and they're helping, they're rescuing animals, whatever we're doing, they're watching. So I'm not saying you have to be a professional mom to be a good role model to your daughter at all.
right.
I'm saying, yes, to our point, you're true to yourself, but you're also showing that you're engaged in life. You recognize your strengths. You're applying those strengths in the workplace. You have confidence to leave if you're not being treated well. It's all of that watching, or that you go back to work, right?
Hmm.
If you're unsatisfied, your kids, a lot of women our age, they have been, raising their kids and now they're figuring out their next steps. Those are a lot of my clients, right?
Yeah,
And we make choices at every age and every stage. So, what are you showing your daughters and sons then? So,
right,
for our daughters between 15 and 25, they're launching different things, right?
right.
But when you think about college choice, choice of major, going into arts or
Or
business,
whether to go to college or not.
whether or not to go to college at all, there's a million moments of clarity that you
Yeah,
can be helping your daughter and son, not based on your own life and your own regrets or your own successes, but truly trying to see them and honor them. I do some talking at a freshman parents week at Binghamton, which is where I went to college,
yeah.
and I give a talk for parents on how to help kids with their career. And, and culturally, we have some parents from different cultures that are driving them and driving them. I have a
Yes.
client now who failed the medical exam 7 times. She's in her 30s. Both parents are doctors. She got into medical school by the skin of her teeth. I did a few career assessments. She doesn't like science.
Yeah.
And the universe is supporting it. She hasn't passed. I just actually held up the book to her and she's like, oh my God. So I'm going to help her become true to herself. But I think if the mother understood this, it would have saved the daughter a lot of pain and
There's
feeling bad about herself.
yeah. Well, I've had this, you and I are both Berkman certified, and that was a
I
commonality.
love that. Yes,
I
that's
know
great.
we met and we didn't even know that. And I was like, wait a second, this is so
Yeah, that was
exciting.
awesome.
When in my Launch Career Clarity course, when we're going through and we're supporting them, or if I'm working privately with a student, we start with self-awareness,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I use the Berkman as my tool for getting that self-awareness, but we begin with self-awareness,
Yeah.
and included in that, I also include academic profile and personal values.
That's great.
And the
Do you know what
number
I
of
do for
time,
self-awareness?
what?
You know what I do for
What?
self-awareness? A few things, but I do Clifton Strengths. I do a fabulous exercise called the Seven Stories exercise, and I have them journal 20 to 25 of their moments, specific moments in their lives where they felt proud. And then they choose
Mm,
seven and write a paragraph, and we find the threads of those moments when people were feeling them. Could be saving a cat from a tree or a
yeah.
soccer goal or a moment in a meeting, but it really gets into the life stories
Well,
of
those through lines are always there, right?
always.
One of the objections I hear from a lot of people is, I like really parents almost not believing that they can trust their kids to make
Yes,
wise, informed
yes, yes,
decisions. And
yes,
like they can be trusted with the right support and the right tools to do
yes,
so. And I'm like, those through lines are going to show up. Like, because they'll say,
yes,
oh, they can't know, or careers are changing too much right now, which they are rapidly evolving. The workplace is
rapidly.
rapidly evolving. But the through lines are there. I mean, who would have, I was graduating college in 1991. Who would have thought like we would be doing a show that we could film on our computers? I didn't
Of
even have a
course,
personal computer,
of
right?
course.
You will develop over time and those through lines will be there.
Yes. Were you going to say something about Berkman?
Yeah, so this was going on to like the kids can build the self-awareness, but how many times I've had a conversation, a coaching conversation with the young person, the parent might be in the room, and the parent gains insights into their students or their child's personal wiring.
Yes.
And I've seen the parent become very emotional. I mean, the number, and they'll apologize for it. I'm sorry. I can't believe I'm tearing up. I can't. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, you love this person. And
Yes.
sometimes it's like, I've been misunderstanding this about them.
Yes.
And so when we as moms can gain that, or parents,
Yes.
period, can gain those insights
Yes.
to
I,
really know them for who they are.
yes, absolutely. It's so beautiful, and I think you don't have to be Berkman certified or therapist or in the
Right.
session. I really want to say, just watch, okay? My
Slow
one
down.
slow down and watch and just recognize that what you're seeing are clues. So my one son, since he's been 3, he's been watching crime shows. For forensics, CSI, whatever,
Yeah.
f- always crime shows. And so I'm watching crime show, crime show, crime show. I'm like, what is this, right? And I would point it out. Or what position they choose to play in sports. He was a goalie in soccer. And I'm like, you don't mind things coming flying at you, right? You're in the moment. On the
Yeah.
Myers-Briggs, I'd call him a ESFP, right? Don't mind things and responding to things like a
Yep.
fireman and a cop. So then you take these themes, it's like you like to investigate, you like negotiation. This is your position in sports. And then you just show up with curiosity, like, tell me why. They're not going to have those insights at that young age, but we
Right.
have more grown-up brains, so we can see it. My older son studied neuroscience, but he also, the whole sports and teams, and from a leadership perspective, like you just watch what they talk about. Look what websites, look what movies, look what TV shows, look who their friends are. Like, just watch their lives because as adults, in my first session with clients, I always go back to early childhood. What did you do in elementary school, high school? What sports, what movies? That's when kids choose for themselves.
Yeah.
Most of us let our kids choose those things until it gets to these more consequential
Right.
decisions, and
Big
then
decisions.
we start advising. But if we go back, we know what they chose. We know kids know what they like. They know what makes them tick. We just lose that as adults.
Well, in our weekly newsletter that we send out, and I've sent one every week since May 2021.
Wow.
And one of the things that we always include is a conversation cue, a conversation starter. And I've had numerous episodes where, like, people are doing really good work. I'm thinking like Rick Clark. He used to be director of admissions at Georgia Tech. He's
Uh-huh.
now like about strategic
Yeah,
enrollment or something. He has a book and it's all conversation based for families.
I love
And
that.
so this curating healthy, good conversations instead of telling people what to do.
Yes,
I
yes,
think that's another thing too. When the stakes seem high, parents tend to, and I've been prone to this myself and have worked on it a lot, tell
yes,
instead of ask or
yes,
just talk.
yes, yes. And listen, I'm a career counselor, I'm a therapist, I have my kids. On one hand, I'll be like practicing what I preach, and then
Mhm.
I'll leave a career assessment on the desk and I'll run out, right? Like,
Yeah.
so we're not perfect because we
No.
still want to help and provide tools. There's a difference now. They used to talk about helicopter parents,
Hmm.
and now the new idea is snowplow parents, right?
Yes. Terrible.
That we're paving the way. But I don't know if it's terrible because
Really?
once they're getting into the world, I want my kids to have my LinkedIn contacts. The world is tricky, the navigation. I want to
I
pave
think
the
it's a
way.
fine line though. Do you?
It's a very fine line. It's a very fine line. We don't want to do it for them, but
Right.
if we have access, why not help our kids with our access? It's a very fine line, Lisa. I think we don't want to judge. Clearly, the kid has to get the job on their own. They have to get
Right.
into college on their own. We know that doesn't work, right? The only time I was ever fired from a job was my son helping him with the college essay. Okay, so I overstepped, but it's a fun, but being a snowplow and also showing, it's again showing them, and if you have access, sharing it, but they have to want it, and that's another big thing.
Yeah.
Some of our kids will come and ask for help, and
Yeah.
then we can be all in. Some are not asking, and we have to be much more reserved. And even within the same family, different kids need different things. We know that.
100%.
Right? So I think it's really like how much do they want and how much are we giving? And then how do you recognize that? If there's a lot of fighting in the house about this, somebody's doing something wrong, right?
Yeah.
If they're coming and needing something, I mean, in the workplace now, I cannot tell you the number of stories where a parent is in the Google Doc. We have fired people because the parent
I've
is
seen
doing
this
the work.
myself. Yes.
Parents are showing up to interviews. That's not okay,
It's
right?
not okay.
But
I think
yeah,
that's where my brain goes with snowplow. Like I always say, I want to be a soft place where you can land. We do in the course, we give students a framework to build out a really great LinkedIn profile. And the number of parents in our community who then go like, oh, I need to up level mine.
that's
And
right.
and I say it the last 2 months during our group Q&A, one in June, one in July, I should say we're recording in August, even though I think this is coming out in September. I've had a parent reach out to me afterwards, connect with me on LinkedIn and say, "Hey, because of the Q&A and the resources in the course for my kid, I
Yep,
also used it
that's
and,
great.
let me connect with you." But I always say, your first five connections, let them be somebody that your parent and then who their friends, like start with that
Exactly.
because what we're
Exactly.
doing is teaching them how to naturally
Exactly.
connect.
But that's positive snow plowing,
Yeah.
right? We don't
I,
have to
I think
say
I, I think in snow plowing, I just thought like I'm gonna
no,
bulldoze it all out for them and
no,
like so
no. Well,
yeah.
it could be
I
like that. That's
we're
the
in
thing.
agreement of what it is.
Totally. And the same situation can feel like one way or another, the same situation depending on who the kid is.
I agree. Well, and the season of life the kid's in. Like I
Yes.
think about my 27-year-old and of course, he's my first, so I made more mistakes with him than the twins. But I really was learning how, as a mom, to navigate. So let this inspire growth that you can change if you are sitting here going
Yes.
like, oh, I'm listening to this, I feel so convicted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was doing too much directing or snow plowing or doing for him.
Yeah.
And we navigated that into a place where he was like, I don't need you to do it for me. Sometimes I just want to talk. So and then it was so funny. There was a time like 2 years ago, he was navigating something at 25, and he called me and he's sharing. And I had gone so far the other way of just like, how are you feeling about that? And just, being supportive and letting him vent to me. I thought he was just venting about something. He's like, Mom, I am calling because I want to know what
Help.
you would do. I'm like,
You're
oh,
like,
okay.
oh. Right.
Okay, I've gone too far the other way. But I think actually I just took that and said, okay, I need to ask when they start.
That's right. That's right.
It's okay to say, are you just,
Right.
hey, do you just need to vent? Because I get it. I
Right.
need to vent all the
Right.
time. Or are you looking for advice?
Right. Or you're teaching them to ask for what they need.
Ask for
It's
what they
not all
need.
on you
Yes.
to figure it out. It's on them that
Right.
we have to teach them that it's okay if you come for A and it's okay if you come for B, right?
Yes.
I want to go back to something you started talking about a few
Yeah.
minutes ago about encouraging them to share and the
Mm.
stories. And it makes me think like four people, because of my book, sent me this article that came out in the New York Times. It was Mother's Day. 25 questions to bring to your mom. I have it sitting right here, right? And it's to deepen the relationship. And I think that's another thing we could do as moms. You know, some daughters, adult daughters say, oh, my mom overshares. And I've heard
Yeah.
these stories 100 times. Most people have not heard enough about how we as moms came to choose what college, even if it was because we were following
Mm.
a person, or how we chose our major, or how we got where we are. And I think to encourage that dialogue, which is not a
Yeah.
normal because moms, we're so busy parenting, we don't think that these stories are important. But these questions that you can ask, and maybe I'll give it to you and you could put it in
Yeah.
your newsletter. They're so wonderful because they open up the daughter, the mom. You moms can really start opening up in a different way and sharing with your daughters, which will be so helpful because daughters don't know what our mothers have, what we have been through. And
Right.
everybody has had trauma and everybody has had what I call is sometimes things in our career timeline that trip us up. Like as,
Hmm.
you know, like I've seen people, let's say your dad as an entrepreneur at a certain age hit a real slump and went into a depression. I see people at that same age unconsciously slump.
Mm.
So sometimes, again, in the timeline of the family or immigrant families, when you came or having to choose a different career because you immigrated somewhere, or in the book, I talk about sometimes immigrant parents or alcoholic parents created bootstrap daughters, where the daughter had to really pull herself up, and
Yeah.
she's high demand. But I really think it's so important for us as women, for daughters to know our mother's stories and not just the stories that they're choosing to tell, but the stories we need to ask.
I love that. Well, and I have a New York Times subscription, so I'll
Okay,
see if
great.
I can get
There's
a.
a link I could send you. They're
Yeah,
great.
send me
They're
the link.
beautiful
We'll
questions.
put it in the show notes for sure.
I
Well, it
love
just
that.
goes back to conversations being rich. And I think you hit on something earlier. Like, you're so busy when you're launching these kids, and it's easier for you and me. We're a little bit ahead of most of, like, life stage wise, most of the listeners of the podcast, just a little bit, just a smidge. And it's like I can sit here as an empty nester with five launched kids who are all
Right.
financially independent and doing their own things, and we get to see them, but they're not messing up my house on a daily.
There's no smelly sock and
Exactly. Although
soccer smelly.
I have a son, daughter-in-law, and grandson visiting this week, and
Okay.
I'm doing a lot of picking up the
So
house,
you've got some
but
smelly
which,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I love it. I absolutely love it. But it's like the thing that I'm thinking about now, it's like, yeah, try to create the space to breathe into that at the time. Like, let
Yes.
us who have gone a little bit ahead of you go like, I
Yeah.
wish maybe I would have slowed down a little bit more.
Yeah.
And because you and I do this work, we probably did do more
Yes.
consciously at that. But our
Yes.
listeners, they're not doing this professionally, right?
Right. And also, Lisa, we're talking about a lot of different kinds of parents, right? So
Yeah.
most listeners are probably not the parents that have such high anxiety themselves. They're literally spiraling if their kids aren't launching. Like there's a whole
Right.
movement for there's natural consequences to our
Mhm.
kids' behavior. Not You're not going to go to class, you're not going to finish the semester. What are you going to do with that extra semester tuition, whether the parents are paying it, right? So
Yeah.
there's some real things, there's real consequences if our kids are not doing what we think. But then the majority of people, I think we have to ask ourselves, how consequential is things at this moment? Do
Yeah.
I need to step in? It's sort of like when they're toddlers, I would try to say to myself, like, and you and I were just talking about this with the baby.
Yeah.
If it's about keeping them safe, we're going to draw the line.
Right.
That's when as toddlers, right? My job is to keep you safe. So if your kids are starting to drive and you need to put like speed limits on your car or find friends, I said to my kids, you want me to pay for your cell phones, you're on Find Friends. It's non-negotiable,
Right.
right? So there are moments that are really consequential. But a lot of times in this career process, we don't think of it in terms of these consequential decisions, right? So it's what college, what major, first internships, first job. And these kids don't know. Remember what age their brains form, right?
Right.
Women more than men. They don't really know. They need us. But again, how much are they coming and what are we recognizing in them? That's not us. Because that's the
Right.
biggest mistake we make is putting onto them something from our experience, which is normal, but we really want to see them, let them explore. Like they might come and be like, I want to try being an astronaut. We don't want to respond, you're never going to be an astronaut. You don't like science. Like,
You can
so,
think it, but you shouldn't
right,
say it.
exactly. We were talking about that. That's an inside thought, Alana. I tell myself that a
Yeah.
lot. Like, don't say that. Explore it. What do you like
Right.
at
I mean,
that?
that's what we say. Like, hey, you can, because I don't believe that you can be anything, right? The world's telling kids, and I think it only creates more anxiety and stress for this age group.
Yeah,
The world says, you can be anything. The world's your oyster.
right.
Well, that only serves to overwhelm. And I don't believe it's a true statement. We're going to funnel it down. That's how we use the Berkman is to funnel down to
Yeah,
a list of jobs where like you look, your personality DNA looks exactly like the people who are
right,
thriving in these jobs.
right,
So
right,
now we have a more manageable list. Now,
right.
realistically, my manageable list that I get from my Berkman, not everything on there would be a good fit. And some of them even I would go like, I'm not smart enough in that particular way to be
Right,
able to do
right, right,
that job. I'm very self-aware.
right.
But if I don't have that self awareness yet, then let's use investigating
Yes,
research to
yes.
figure out what does it really require.
Yes. Now, listen, you may disagree with me because we do slightly different work.
Yeah.
I think, Burke, it's so amazing to help them get a direction. But honestly, we don't know how these careers are going to unfold,
No.
especially with the new world, right?
Yeah.
So it's good to be grounded in this knowledge of your interests and skills, values,
Yes.
personality. But then it needs to unfold. So, but a lot of my clients coming to me at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70
Yeah.
wish so much that they did this when they were your client's age. Wish
Yeah.
so much. So the gift of people coming to see you and parents investing at this age, I cannot speak enough about because my clients are much older in career
Right.
transition and they wish they had that. So you are really doing such a
Thanks.
gift. My favorite clients are the moms.
Yeah.
But I cannot speak enough about the importance at that age of having the frameworks and the
Well,
blueprints.
you can keep using. One of the things I say is career advising that you and I do, and we can start to wrap it up. And if you have anything else you want to add, but like
I could talk to you all day,
I
Lisa.
know I could too. So that you know what that means. I always say that means you're coming back for another episode
Part two, I love it.
for
I love
sure.
it.
But career advising or coaching typically takes place at like a point in time, right? Or for a
Mhm.
period, a short period of time. So somebody
If
might,
at all.
if at all, right? If you choose to embark on it, which you and I, of course, would recommend everybody should do. But if you choose to do it, career coaching, career advising, it's going to be like this blip on your timeline of life.
Yes,
However, the attitude, the mindset of career development being
yes,
lifelong
yes.
will
Oh,
serve you well.
absolutely.
And so career development is very different from career advising or coaching. And I
Absolutely.
continue to take, I mean, I couldn't even have an online course or a podcast if
Of
I didn't
course.
invest in my own career development to
Oh,
do new things for emerging platforms and occupations and things
exactly.
like that.
But
So
that's why you and I click so well because we're both like
lifelong
generating and new
learners.
ideas all the
Yeah.
time. So just in closing, I just
Yeah.
want to say that, some of us, the greatest jobs we have in the world is being moms, right?
Right.
And we also don't want to be, it's sort of like investing all your money in a bank when you invest it all in the kids and then the bank will go bankrupt and we're left, right?
Yeah.
So we really have to take care of them and take care of ourselves. And if you're not happy with something that you're doing, look at that for yourself because there is no better way to help your daughter than to help yourself. And that
Amen.
30 years of experience, that is really the bottom line.
Put yeah, oxygen mask on yourself first.
Yes.
Thank you, my friend, for
Oh,
making
thanks
time.
so much for
This
having me.
gift, I know whether our listeners have are the mom of daughters or sons, or maybe they aren't, maybe they work with this age group, but they, as you said, all of us women at least are daughters. We have and
Absolutely.
Male or female, we all have moms. So
And
there's,
if anybody has questions about the book, it's like, again, I still think of the book like, would my mother have approved? Would she have liked it? I write about the workshops in the book,
I'm sure she would have
because
been
it's
a
like it's
huge
all
fan.
rooted in her. She was a great role model, and now she's been gone 21 years, and I still
Ah,
think about that
yeah.
profound
I'm
impact. But I'll
so
tell you,
glad that you guys did it when you did because
me
we
too.
just don't know. We have to keep saying
Right.
yes
Yes.
to the opportunities that we have. So we'll link to
Oh,
the book in the show notes. It's amazing. What's mom still got to do with it? I'm reading the exact title because the subtitle I do not have memorized.
it
New
is
life into
three.
your career by
Yes.
understanding your mother-daughter relationship. So we will link to it in the show notes. If you can send me the New York Times 25
Yes, I will.
questions, we will link to those.
Great.
And if people want to get in touch, how would they contact you?
My website is ilanalevitt.com. There's
Okay.
also a What's Mom, the book website with this little quiz of what kind of daughter you are.
Oh, I haven't
Um,
taken it.
but
I That's what I'm doing
uh,
next.
but a lot of women have trouble identifying with one, but some of the
Yeah.
girls might. But you can also put my email,
Okay.
ilanatolkinlevitt at Gmail in. But I'm online, I'm on LinkedIn. People are
You're
welcome
you're
to connect to
easily
me.
found.
Easily found. Connect to me on LinkedIn if you're out there and you just want to see what's doing. But thank you so much for having me, Lisa. This was awesome.
Thanks a lot. I can't wait till next time. Take
Me too.
care.